everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, that's good, Reema. Thank you.
So, hello, a very good morning to everyone. My name is Reema Kesharwani, and I recently graduated with my master's in secondary education from Mercyhurst University. This presentation is about the research that I did for my thesis during my master's. I'm glad I got this opportunity to present this paper alongside my husband, Dr. Rajkamal Kesharwani, who is an assistant professor at Mercyhurst University. This research is titled Effectiveness of Flipped Learning versus Traditional Learning in a Middle School Chemistry Classroom. So let's begin. With the ongoing rapid advancements in technology, educators understand the need to incorporate digital technologies into the classroom. Now, such advancements will not only help Generation Z to better engage with their learning content, but also go a step further to create an environment that is more student-centered. One of the recent advancements is the flipped learning method, which has proven to be impactful in teaching. So what is flipped learning? Flipped learning is also famously known as flipped classroom, inverted instruction, or upside down teaching. This approach promotes collaboration by flipping the traditional instruction, where the core content is delivered outside the classroom in the individual space using technology, whereas the group space is used for hands-on learning. Now, this model shifts the teacher's role as a facilitator, and the students become in charge of their learning. In this student-centered instruction, learners first complete the lesson prior to attending the class by watching videos and completing guided notes. Next, the students come in class and get the opportunity to apply and extend their learning by participating in various hands-on activities. Now, this paper analyzes the effectiveness of flipped learning versus traditional learning in a middle school chemistry classroom. Now, the effectiveness of flipped learning is a topic of continuous investigation in literature. It was pioneered in the year 2012 in the K-12 domain by Bergman and Sams, who were the two high school teachers in Colorado who collaborated on ways to use technology to improve their face-to-face time with students. Now, they argued that the best way to use class time was not lecturing, but hands-on activities-based learning. Next, in the year 2014, researchers Kim and others mentioned how flipped learning increased the overall opportunities through differentiated learning for each child in the same classroom. Teachers could give higher order learning opportunities to challenge stronger learners, whereas provide individualized learning support to weaker students. Next, in the year 2017, researchers Smallhorn and others studied the flipped classroom method on second-year college students. Now here, the biology lectures were replaced with short online videos and quizzes, followed by application-oriented in-class activities. The results showed no measurable impact. Later, in the year 2020, Dietavi utilized flipped classroom approaches on 65 college students enrolled in science course and found an increase in active learning and enjoyment of the course. Thus, although there are many works in literature focusing on flipped classroom, the research in middle school children is limited. There has also not been an investigation of flipped learning in middle school chemistry classes. This paper is a quantitative and a qualitative study into the effects of flipped learning on middle school chemistry classes. Now, after analyzing the literature, following research questions were defined. Number one, does the implementation of the flipped classroom leads to an improvement in students' cognitive learning outcomes as compared to traditional classroom? Number two, do students feel positive about their learning through flipped classroom method? The participants included 122 students in 2 classrooms studying 8th grade chemistry in a public middle school situated in northwestern Pennsylvania. Each classroom consisted of 3 blocks of students. The students were divided into 2 groups, control group and experimental group. The control group consisted of 47 students that learned through face-to-face lectures from teacher that lasted for majority of time, followed by a post-test. On the other hand, the experimental group consisted of 75 students that learned through video-based lectures that were completed out of school, followed by active in-class activities like tactile projects, demonstrations, and discussions, followed by a post-test. Now, this study was conducted to evaluate the effectiveness of flipped learning versus traditional learning. The curriculum was taught by me and supervised by 2 experienced teachers. The students participated in the study were allowed to quit at any time, and both classrooms ran in 3-block schedules. This study was conducted over a period of 3 days for about 80 minutes per day. Blocks 1 and 2 in both classrooms were taught using flipped learning, whereas block 3 in both classrooms were taught using traditional learning method. All students were taught the same topic through the same progression of concepts. So on day 1, all students gave a pre-test online on Schoology, and next they were given a brief overview about the experiment that was to be conducted over the next 2 days. The flipped learning students additionally filled a readiness survey in class. Next, they were asked to fill a classroom readiness survey. And on the same day, they were asked to watch teacher prepared videos of less than 15 minutes outside the classroom and fill skeletal notes online before returning the next day. They had the flexibility to watch the video at any place or time. For this group, the plan for next day was to segregate students on the basis of their performance on the skeletal notes. The classroom space was divided into 3 different stations. Station 1 comprised of students who did not watch the video or submit the skeletal notes. Station 2 comprised of students who scored less than the threshold on their skeletal notes and needed individualized learning support from the teacher. Whereas Station 3 had students who scored above the threshold and were given higher order learning activities to solve. On day 2, all flipped classroom students were combined and told to work on the 3 stations as per the earlier plan. I walked around the classroom and provided individualized instructional support as needed. The traditional classroom students were also combined and taught for about 80 minutes, where they received face-to-face instruction for the maximum part. The teacher explained concepts and answered students' questions. Now, students in both the groups got the same homework. The only difference was that students in flipped classroom model completed the homework during the class time by engaging themselves in various hands-on activities, whereas the students in traditional classroom did the work at home and were asked to submit it the following day. On day 3, both groups were given the same post-test to evaluate their understanding. All the test questions had content-related validity and were aligned with state science standards. Next, only the students in flipped classroom model took part in a survey that contained about 6 multiple choice questions and 4 open-ended questions asking about their perception on this model. Only then the results of the performance of everyone on the post-test were shared to encourage more student involvement in this method in the future. Now, results. The data was analyzed using Excel spreadsheet. So as seen from table 1, the percentage increase in students' scores were calculated based on the average pre-test and post-test scores. Results showed a higher percentage increase in the scores of students who were taught using the flipped learning as compared to traditional approach. Figure 1 shows the comparison of average pre-test and post-test scores between all the 6 blocks from both the classes. From this figure, it can be concluded that students who were taught using the flipped model, they learned more effectively and performed better. On the contrary, students who were taught by traditional method did not show much increase in their scores. The figure 2 here shows the graphical line plot of the percentage increase in students' scores. The students that have received flipped learning approach, they show uneven increments between the different blocks due to the difference in the makeup of the students. Thus, it can be satisfactorily inferred that flipped learning approach does result in a significantly higher positive spike in student scores as compared to the traditional approach. Now here, table 2 shows the student perception about the flipped classroom model that seemed quite positive and encouraging. Each line here represents a response from a different student. From the general feedback, we can conclude that students support this mode of learning for its convenience, engagement, retention, and reinforcement. There was also some negative feedback from the students regarding teachers' availability, their ability to manage time at home, and content complexity. Now let's talk about some of the advantages of flipping. As Generation Z grew up in the internet age, discussing about flipping the classroom kind of created an exciting atmosphere as students were getting to use technology for learning. Flipping allowed teachers to free the class time where they would walk around the classroom to help struggling students. And on the other hand, it also allowed busy students who had to miss classroom lectures to learn 24/7 from anywhere. Kids could now process information at the speed that is convenient to them, where they could pause, break up, or double the speed of the video. Role of teachers shifted to a facilitator where they could spend more time talking to kids and answering their questions. Now, despite these advantages, there were a few challenges, like a lot of time was spent in making the flipped learning videos and creating online quizzes and skeletal notes. The significant amount of time was needed to plan the procedure for the in-class hands-on activities. It was also not easy to implement the flipped lesson through a single teacher, as the method required a good deal of differentiating instruction as per the student needs. The quantitative results of this study revealed how flipped learning model could help increase students' learning outcomes as compared to traditional learning. And the qualitative results indicate how this method is overall well received by the students. Now, as Generation Z is more inclined towards using technologies, flipped learning method could help kids better engage themselves in their learning and increase their understanding of the content. Now, the results of this study could not be generalized as it is conducted over a shorter time duration. Future studies could consider implementing a similar study on a longer time frame. A longer study could offer the opportunity to test the effectiveness of flipped learning on multiple lessons with varying degrees of complexity, or to find if there was any difference by gender in the reception of flipped learning. This study also considers participants from only the 8th grade. So if the future studies could widen their scope to include students from all the grade levels in middle school, it will lead to more insights on how and when flipped learning will be an effective teaching strategy. Thank you.